Good morning, everyone. My name's Hannah Newenschwander. I'm a production associate at Monsanto, and I'll be taking over today's AgGrad. And this is my cat. So for those of you who don't know, Monsanto is an agriculture company who focuses on seed production and bringing technologies to farmers. So I actually work in their soybean production division, but today I'm going to take you guys out to the cornfields and show you how we produce corn. So since we have a corn production site so close by, I've been helping them with this summer, and basically I've been supervising detasseling crews. So it's about 4:40 in the morning and I need to get out in the field, so I'll see you guys out there and tell you more. So one of my jobs as a supervisor of these detasseling crews is to make sure that the working conditions are safe, so I have to check the irrigator in the field. So as I'm walking down here to the pivot, I'm checking to make sure that nothing looks like it's been struck by lightning or any electrical damage. So now that I'm down here at the pivot, I'm making sure that the electrical box looks normal and that the grounding wire is still grounded. Okay, so the reason I have to get here so early is all of this stuff has to be done before the crew enters the field, so now that it is, I can explain what I've been talking about this whole time. Last year in the US alone, farmers planted over 175 million acres worth of corn and soybeans, and all that seed has to come from somewhere. So for seed companies like Monsanto to produce enough seed to plant all those acres, we work really closely with farmers who help us grow seed fields. So instead of the seed going to an elevator, we actually pay the farmer to harvest it and bring it back into our sites where we package it for use for next year. Seed production for soybeans is really simple because we just plant the fields and harvest it. We let them self-pollinate. And seed corn production is a little more complicated because we're actually breeding two different varieties together to get a hybrid on a very large scale. So we designate which variety is the female and which will be the male, and then we plant them in alternating blocks throughout the field. So what we want is only pollen from the male row to fertilize the female row, but the problem is that females pollinate too. So the only way to make sure that the females don't throw pollen themselves is to cut their tassels off. So what my crew does is they have to walk through all of these rows of females and pull any tassels that our cutters missed. So these females have already been picked, but basically I can show you on the male, they just come through and literally we'll pull it out. It's that easy. So for those of you who are paying attention, that does mean that when you're eating sweet corn and you get those stringy things stuck in your teeth, that's actually female reproductive organ. So each of these silks is individually pollinated and they all actually lead to one kernel of corn. Well, right before harvest, they actually come and literally flatten all of the male rows because we don't want to harvest those. We only want to harvest the females. And in the end, these short little inbreds will produce huge hybrids that have superior genetics that farmers are looking for. Oh, I was going to try to take a picture next to these tall hybrids for height difference, but it's too tall, so here you go. With this detasseling crew for 16 days straight because there's no weekends in corn production, but they actually just finished their last field this morning, so I'm all done with detasseling for the season. So it's going to be back to the bean life for me. I'm going to drive back to my regular site and I'll show you guys around there a little later. But first I just realized that I haven't really told you guys anything about myself yet, so I'm going to do that really quick. So I was born and raised in Texas, grew up in a small town northwest of San Antonio a little bit, and I participated in sports and 4-H. I got my degree in animal science from Texas A&M University, aka the best school ever. And I entered my final semester at A&M having absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with that, so it was at a career fair that I first saw Monsanto. Being that Monsanto is in kind of the crop side of agriculture, it really wasn't a company that was on my radar with my animal science degree. But I had an extra resume to give away, so I stopped by, talked to the representative at the booth, and ended up getting an interview. But to be completely honest, it wasn't really something I was overly excited about. I thought I'd really just use it as an opportunity to kind of practice my interview skills. But in preparation for my interview, I began to realize that they had a big vision for sustainable crop production, and I had a lot of interest in sustainable animal production. During my interview, of course, they asked if I had any questions or concerns, and my main one was, yeah, I have a degree in animal science. But as I've learned since working here, Monsanto's a really diverse company, and the interviewers assured me that it really didn't matter what my major was. So I received and accepted an offer that took me 1,300 miles away from where I grew up to northern Illinois. Now I really am going to get back to work, back to my regular site, so I'd really love to hear any questions that you guys have about me or my job. Guys, so I'm finally back at the bean site. I wanted to give you guys a tour, kind of walk you through what happens to seed when it gets here. First thing that happens is the truck's going to pull in over this scale and get a weight. So after it's scaled in, the truck's going to pull over here and it's going to unload its beans into one of our bins. So all of the beans are stored at these bins here. Where we're ready to package a certain one, it gets on this conveyor and goes all the way up to our tower. So before we just package these beans and sell them to our customers, we have to clean them up, get all the debris, weed seed, rocks, pods out of it. So after they are, oh, I just realized my name is the same forwards and backwards. Anyways, next they go through these color sorters, which actually use air to push out black seeds, corn, weed seeds, things like that. This big contraption is a gravity table. The gravity table works by kind of vibrating, air's coming up underneath it, sort of like an air hockey table. The good seed that we want will come through here, and any seed that we don't want ends up at this end of the gravity table where it's filtered off and actually ends up in our coal. Once the seed is all cleaned up, we store it and it'll be packaged either in this paper bagger here, or it'll come to this big bagger here where we can package in these black seed pack boxes, or in mini bulk bags like this one. So my role in all of this as a production associate is really as an entry-level management position where I oversee our quality lab and packaging. Well, I just wanted to show you guys one of our seed bean fields. It's really tall right now. Basically, the only thing that we do for our seed bean fields is we'll come out twice a summer and inspect them to make sure that there's no problem. We use this really high-tech homemade PVC pipe T-post to help us push the beans back and really get a look at what's going on. So about 7 years ago, my site established this really large pollinator habitat. It's about 7 acres. Last year, the company actually established an initiative to ensure that all of our production sites in North America will have their own pollinator habitats. This milkweed variety ends up actually on the border of the plot, which is kind of weird. It must be not very competitive inside the plot. If you've ever wondered why they call it milkweed, and I had no idea that there was corn and soybeans planted back here. This second portion of the plot is actually just a grassland habitat, so there's quite a bit of milkweed in there, but also native grasses. Oh, you want to know about this really neat bench that I'm sitting on? This bench was actually made with some of our recycled packaging materials, and we have about half a dozen of them spread out throughout the community. I got to get off work a little early since I started so early, so I wanted to come introduce you guys to somebody. Snickers! Snickers actually came all the way up here from Texas with me. I've had her since she was born, and she turned 14 this year. When I first moved up here, I met a really nice family who agreed to let me keep Snickers with their mule, Gus. Don't laugh at his ears. That pretty much concludes a day in my life as a Monsanto employee. If you're a student or you just liked what you saw and want to see what other opportunities we have, you should screenshot this snap. If you were disappointed by the lack of syringes and scary labs during our seed production tour, I'm sorry, I think. Several people have asked me what it's like working for Monsanto, and I'd like to try to answer that now. Probably my favorite thing about working for Monsanto is all the opportunities there are just within the company and how much they focus on personal development, which is important to me. In this position in particular, I also really enjoy that there's a lot of hands-on outdoor work, so I'm not always sitting behind a computer. I also learned to really love selfless service, being in 4-H and going to school at Texas A&M, and the fact that Monsanto is really involved in the communities is pretty cool to me. I'm going to stay logged into this account a little while longer, so I'd love to hear more about what you guys do, what you're going to school for, or answer any questions you might have. So you guys are welcome to follow me on Snapchat. I'll provide that handle below. Mostly I just post about my cat, so it's probably not the best place to find. I do share a lot about agriculture and my job with Monsanto on my Twitter account, so that's a really great place to find me. And now you guys probably have a lot of really unattractive screenshots of me as you were trying to grab my handles while I was talking. Thank you guys so much for following along with me today. I hope that you reach out to me on social media. If you have any questions, please let me know. So lastly, I just wanted to let y'all know that I'm moderating an ag chat on Twitter next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, all about careers in agriculture.